Hello and welcome to Everything Fear, and the third episode of our series, A Life in Horror. Today we look at the top 5 horror films of 1980. Hello and welcome to Everything Fear, your one-stop shop for all things horror. I'm Kit Tinsley. I'm a horror author, film academic and general horror geek. If you enjoy this video, if you could give us a like, subscribe and maybe tickle that bell icon to be notified when we upload future content, that would be great, thank you. So, today we have the third episode in our series, A Life in Horror. In this series, I am looking at the top 5 horror movies of every year that I've been alive. So today we're looking at the year I turned 2 years old, 1980. At number 5, we have the film Cannibal Holocaust, directed by Ruggero Deodato. This is one of the most controversial films ever made, with violence and special effects on such an extreme level that the director was actually made to bring the cast before a court to prove they were still alive. They were that convinced that he had made a snuff film. Add to that the controversy over some horrendous animal cruelty within the uncut version of the film, and you end up with a film that is talked about a lot, not always for the right reasons. The film was banned in many countries for a long time, including here in the UK. The film might not be the most tasteful film ever made, but it is an important one. This film was the first found footage movie, really, 19 years before the Blair Witch Project. Also, this film has some of the most unlikable characters you will ever see in a film. The filmmakers in this movie are so vile that by the end of it, you're quite glad to see them get butchered and eaten. Number 4, City of the Living Dead. This is the first film in Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft and zombie movies. In the small town of Dunwich, a priest hangs himself in the local graveyard. This act opens up the gates of hell and allows the dead to rise up. A reporter and a psychic join forces to close the gate before it brings about the apocalypse. Like the other films in this trilogy, this film has quite a bleak tone and some utterly disgusting and brilliant special effects. Though never quite reaching the heights of the next film in the series, The Beyond, this is a really good example of Fulci's work, and probably, I'd say, my second favourite film he ever made. It's a fantastic piece of horror cinema at its nihilistic best. Number 3, The Shining. It feels like there isn't a lot to be said about The Shining that hasn't already been said. It has to be one of the most studied and dissected movies ever made. So many theories about this film. An author like Kubrick brings so much attention to detail and artistry to a film like this that it leaves every little detail open to interpretation. There are theories from it being a confession about faking the moon landings for NASA to it being about the genocide of the Native American people. The Shining can be read in just so many ways, with so many possible meanings, but a lot of this takes away from the fact that it is just one hell of a horror movie. An absolutely brilliant and truly scary horror movie, unlike anything that had been made before. And of course it has some amazing performances from Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. Number 2, The Changeling. Those who watched my top 10 haunted house movies will know how strongly I feel about this film. If you haven't seen it, there's a link to that video up there. I regard this as the greatest haunted house movie ever made. It's a film about grief, a haunted house movie, and a murder mystery all wrapped up into one film. A wonderful and measured performance from George C. Scott is at the forefront of this film. It also has some wonderfully unnerving sequences like the seance scene. And it's just got a really unsettling and creepy tone that creates tension all the way through. I recently heard this film described as an unnerving visual tone poem, and I think that's possibly the best description you could give. Number 1, My favourite film of 1980, The Fog. The Fog is my favourite John Carpenter film of all time. Quite a simple ghost story, essentially, but executed in such an amazing and artful way. Apparently, early cuts of the film didn't work, and studio executives said they couldn't see a film in there. However, with some careful reshoots and re-editing, this story of a small coastal town under attack from supernatural beings in a mysterious fog becomes a near perfect horror movie. People often say that Hitchcock was the master of suspense, but I would argue there are sequences within the film The Fog that prove without a doubt that that title should go to John Carpenter. Back when I was teaching film and students would ask me how to make a good horror movie, the only one bit of advice I would ever give was go and watch The Fog. That will teach you everything you need to know about storytelling, tension building, cinematography, everything that makes a good suspenseful horror movie works perfectly in that film. Well, that wraps up my top 5 of 1980. Hope you've enjoyed it. What were your favourite films of 1980? If you could let me know in the comments, that'd be great. And until next time, stay scared.